Howdy, it's David Duford at davidduford.com, where I help insurance agents become top producing insurance professionals. And today's topic is how to close more sales in one meeting. This video is perfect if you're a sales professional from any stripe or industry and you're looking to take your presentations and close them in the first call, but you're not quite sure what to do or how to design your presentation to do that. What I'm going to go over here are 7 different factors that will help you take your presentations and turn them into a one-call close. Now, while you can't do this with every single product, there's a lot of products that you can turn into a one-call presentation. And there's a few things you've got to change with the style and how you do this in order to make it happen. And the reason I'm teaching this is because my entire career, just to tell you a little bit about myself, has been focused on one-call close. I'm in the insurance business, have been since 2011. I've sold over 3,000 people, or at least presented to 3,000 people on sales calls, predominantly in the insurance final expense business, which is like burial insurance, that kind of thing. And with those products, we are taught to sell them on the first visit. And then going back on a second call or anything more than that is just a complete waste of time and probably won't sell nearly as much anyway. So let me give you the 7 tips I have learned, what I've taught my final expense insurance agents on how to sell on the first call. And feel free to use all of these in order to help you make that change so that you're making more closes immediately. So the first thing is you must pre-qualify. I believe the secret to closing is in the opening. Pre-qualifying is where you ask specific questions to figure out if your person you're meeting with is a qualified buyer or an unqualified suspect. You need to figure out for your particular product, what are the criteria that they have to meet in order to buy what it is that you're selling. It can be a litany of things for whatever industry that you're in. You probably have an idea of what those are. What I can tell you is that there's typically 3 to 5 things that are needed to be met in order for a person to be a qualified buyer. For example, in the final expense burial insurance, it's need and want. Do they need a burial policy? And do they have a desire to protect their loved ones? Also, we have to health qualify them. So there's health questions. And then also we need to bank draft them. So they've got to have a bank account or some account to draft. And they've got to have a budget that they can 100% confirm to. I will not present to a prospect unless they meet that criteria. In fact, I would go so far as to say if they cannot meet even one, or if they meet everything but one of those criterias, then I do not proceed and I close up my book and leave. They are unqualified. So for you, in figuring out what you need to know to pre-qualify so you can close, ask yourself, what are the biggest things that you need your clients to meet in order for them to do business with you? And then design your preliminary pre-qualification section around getting the answers to those questions as opposed to waiting to the end of the sales call or another sales call. Number 2, related, ask disturbing questions. This concept was taught by one of the life insurance business's best salespeople, Ben Feldman. He came up with the concept because talking about dying is disturbing. After all, it is life insurance. It's a conversation very few people want to have. But you've got to be the person who asks and leads with those questions that really drive at the core of what matters to the prospect. And you may not be selling life insurance, maybe selling something that's not that invasive, but you need to ask questions that really matter, that are significant, that get the prospect to think so you can uncover their emotions, their concerns, their challenges, and better gauge why they would be emotionally desiring of wanting to buy whatever it is that you're selling. So come up with 3, 5, 10 disturbing questions. You have to have some kind of questions in your repertoire in order to ask, in order to get deep with the client and figure out what makes them tick. Because if you can do that, you can sell them anything. Number 3, frame the presentation around hot buttons. This is kind of a pet peeve of mine when I see insurance agents present, is they present their product in such a canned fashion that they don't listen to what the client told them in the pre-qualification section as being an important factor. If you do a good job of pre-qualifying, you will know what their hot buttons are. You'll know the things that they say that really make them tick. And then you use that information they gave you in the presentation to sell them on why doing business solves those issues or answers those hot buttons. And typically, hot button is an emotional thing. It's not logical, it's emotional. In life insurance, it's peace of mind. I don't want to burden my loved ones. I just want to know what I have and it's not going to cause me troubles. Sometimes people had policies before that lapsed, that went up in price, and they don't want any of that nonsense. And so if you can connect how your product answers those issues that they've had, you are doing an immensely great job at getting closer to the close where you can sell them on something in that first call. The point is don't overwhelm your clients with details that are unrelated to what their concerns are. Most people have 2, maybe 3 core issues that they want your product to solve or that they need solving. And your goal is to listen in on what those are. It's going to be different for each person. And answer those questions in the form of how your product solves it. If you can do that and lay in hard on those core 3 issues, it'll make a world of difference in closing immediately. Number 4, good sales presentations that close on the first call overcome objections before they manifest. Again, a lot of this relates back to pre-qualifying. If you can think of objections that you get in your sales call, think about, have you ever asked yourself, what if I knew this information up ahead of time? If you're on a second or third sales presentation and an objection pops up, it should frustrate you because you should have been able to answer that immediately on the first call or at least qualified for it. So think about the objections that you hear, the ones that are most common. Again, there's like usually a half dozen or less that you will experience in your industry, and weave them into your sales presentation so that you overcome them or at least address them early on. So for example, in my life insurance sales presentation, budget's sometimes a problem. So I ask within the first 10 minutes, hey, if I can qualify for a program, can you afford $80 to $100 a month or whatever the budget range is? And when they say, yeah, that works, well, now I don't have a budget problem, okay? They're not going to object to price at the end because they told me they could afford it. And if they come back with that objection, then I'm going to say, hey, you said this works. What's changed? Or I'll reply back and say, hey, that's fine. Let's go lower. How would this range work? But at least I know before getting into the real details that this is something that's even on their radar. Because why would I want to spend time with somebody who doesn't want to afford anything? Sure, you may say, well, I got to convince them and sell them. There's kind of unique aspects to the insurance I sell. It's done with fixed income clientele, so sometimes they don't have any money. But I'm not going to spend or waste 30 minutes trying to talk someone into insurance who can't afford $10 a month. So I would rather go to a real prospect who's going to spend time and actually be interested and be willing to invest the money. So overcome those objections. Craft how to overcome them and engage them. Address them early on in your sales presentation, not later. Number 5, simplify the offer with one closing technique. Okay, so I come from a world, I'm 34. A lot of my sales training was from old-fashioned sales trainers like Brian Tracy, which still is great these days. Forget the guy's name, just left the tip of my head, tip of my tongue. Used to ride motorcycles around in this band uniform. I think his name is Tom. I forget his last name. But anyways, a lot of these sales books from the old days used to talk about the different objections or different closing techniques you can use, like the Benjamin Franklin close, the 3-option close, blah, 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 blah. Well, the truth is you don't need to know all that stuff. The old saying goes, I fear the enemy that knows one kick and has practiced it 10,000 times versus the guy who's done 10,000 kicks one time. If you're really good at one closing technique, it's all you need. So don't overwhelm yourself with unnecessary numbers of closing techniques. Just get really good at one. The one I like to use in insurance sales is a 3-option technique. Here's the 3 options in the price range you gave. Which one do you like best? That's it. That's all I've done 3,000 plus times. Works pretty well, about half the time. Okay, so number 6 here is when rebuttaling, build internal tension, not apply external pressure. So this is a nuanced way to look at objection rebuttaling. I think if you are rebuttaling a client's objection and you're guilting them or you're making them feel inferior, you're going about the objection handling process wrong. I learned this from a top producer in Final Expense named Tim Winders. And what he does is he talks about building internal tension. So when he rebuttals an objection, he revisits the hot buttons and the things that matter to the client and relates why taking action today is critical to solve those problems. And you're getting back to the core of why they did what they did. Sometimes people get reluctant to buy because of the money or because of the timing, or they think they can wait. And you've got to build urgency internally. And you've got to connect it to some realities. Like, for example, in insurance, what we do is we talk about the fact that nobody gets younger as they age. They get older. And with age comes sickness and health issues, and certainly higher prices. And how another concept that's inarguable is we don't know when we're going to die. Death is a mystery, when it will occur at least. And it's better to be prepared now than to take the chance of not being prepared. And by not paying the premium, you're not avoiding this at all. You're bringing more risk on. And we visit these concepts because the client can't argue with them. They're logically true, but they're also emotional. And we revisit, and many times they agree or they explain this to us, and we just merely remind them. And that builds the internal tension to make a commitment. So I challenge you guys out there who have objections and experience them. First of all, if you learn my approach, this one call approach, you'll have less objections. But the ones that you do, think of how you can connect to eternal concepts, foundational beliefs that are inarguable, and relate to those and how what you sell them will solve those problems, or at least make their life more complete because of it. And last, don't forget the cool down. So when you close on one calls, if you leave immediately after you close the deal, many times you'll be in a circumstance to where the client will get buyer's remorse. It's not that you can avoid buyer's remorse entirely. Every good salesperson has clients who have buyer's remorse. But if you take time to cool down a sale, close the deal, ask any questions, and then talk about anything other than what it is that you sold, that you will save a lot of those deals that otherwise might have called you back. Because why? You're leaving them with a good feeling. People don't remember specifics. They don't remember facts. They remember opinions and emotions. And what they will feel about you is that you're a good guy. You're likable. I like that guy. He really cares. He listens. And that will reduce people changing their mind tremendously. So long story short, you can take your sales calls and turn them into one-call closes. As long as you follow these techniques listed, it will make a big difference in closing not all your calls in one close, but a lot of them. If you like this training, please subscribe, like it, comment below if you have any questions. And if I can help with anything when it comes to the insurance sales world, go to davidduford.com. Check out what I have to offer and how you can become a salesperson in the insurance business, and all the different sales and marketing business plans and strategies I offer agents. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time. Take care.